Number 25 is this 2019-2020 Immaculate Soul of the Game card of John Havlicek, numbered to 13. And before I talk any more about the card itself, I want to say a few words here about John because I think players from previous eras don't get the credit they deserve. Well, there are only 3 players in league history to go 8-0 in the finals, and guess what? They all wore green. It's Tom Sanders, Casey Jones, and John Havlicek here. And John was unique in that he won the majority of those coming off the bench, and he was okay with that. It was kind of a unique role in a unique situation, but regardless, he still got plenty of touches. He averaged over 20 points per game his entire career. And I could have chosen from several different Havlicek cards in my collection, but I really like this set in particular. I've talked about it before, and you can see this is a pretty thick card here. A little bit different of a relic than you would normally see, but I had bid and lost on one of these, on this particular card out of 13. I'd bid and lost on one of these around December of 2020, and I think the next time I saw one show up was not on eBay, but it was in person. It was this copy at the 2021 National. And as I'm going around, I'm kind of looking at cards that I think I might be interested in. I put this one on my mental list. I walked away, and then I couldn't find it for the longest time when I went to actually buy it. Well, thankfully, I put some feelers out there. I had a handful of friends looking for it. I even showed someone a picture of it, and he was able to locate it based off of the price tag, which I am incredibly thankful for and was really impressed by that. Now, I'm not 100% sure that I've matched up the source material, but Heritage Auctions sold a single Havlicek shoe at one point, and I think Panini was the buyer. The soles match up, but at the same time, you know, he wore a lot of this style shoe. So, but that would make sense that they bought a single shoe, seeing as this set is usually numbered to 25, and this one only has 13 copies. So basically half the copies. Regardless, I haven't seen any of the canvas pieces or laces or other parts of the shoe used in cards. So that means we might see part of this shoe again in the near future. I can only imagine what all Panini's sitting on right now. Anyway, I've got this one. I really like it. I think it's something really unique, and that's why it's card number 25. Card number 24 is this 2002-2003 Topps Stadium Club All-Star Coverage Logo Man of Jermaine ONeal. And those of you that listen to this show, you might remember that I did a 2-episode deep dive on Logo Man cards, and 02 Stadium Club was the first product to include pack-pulled Logo Man cards, and to the best of my knowledge, there were 3 different sets that came from it. Now, if you go and look on some of the online checklist websites, you know, they'll feature the regular All-Star Coverage set, which had 15 different players in it, just a piece of memorabilia right here. They'll also feature the autographed version, which was just 5 different players, I think, but the Logo Man set is not there. So my guess is that the same 15 players that have the Relic set also have the Logo Man set, because I know I've seen at least 5 of them, and some of them are guys that were not in that autographed version. And while they aren't stamped on the card, I believe they're all one-of-ones. All of that is to say, when it comes to pack-pulled Logo Man cards, we've certainly come a long way. Now, when it comes to the card itself, I love the design here, because the 2002 All-Star Game was in Philadelphia, so you can see that secondary Ben Franklin logo up there in the corner. That's a logo that I like quite a bit, so much so that I even bought a Sixers shirt because it was on there, which I never thought I would buy Sixers gear. I can't stand the Sixers, but if you look carefully, that logo is also in the background of the card here on the left as well. Another thing about this card, when you look at, if you look up here, it says that it was a game-worn Logo Man, but then when you look at the back, and let me put the cover on here so we can do that. When you look at the back, it says that the material was worn during the 2002 NBA All-Star Weekend festivities. So who knows if that was the actual All-Star game itself or something else, maybe a photo shoot or something. He wasn't in the rookie-sophomore game. He was, already older than that. So if it actually is game-worn, as it says here, then it had to have been the game itself. Either way, there's a lot of hobby history packed into this little piece of cardboard. You don't really see these show up at all anymore, and that's part of why it's card number 24. Number 23 is a trio of cards from a guy that wore number 23, and that was coincidental here. But I couldn't choose just one of these. I've got 3 copies. And this is a 2014-2015 Immaculate Jumbo special event material of Mark Aguirre. And these 3 patches are from a jersey that was used in the 1989 NBA Finals. And when we think of Pistons and we think the Bad Boys in the Finals, Mark Aguirre is not always a name that comes to the forefront. But really, he was a mid-season addition. And he really, a lot of people credit him with being a big part of that finals run. It's interesting. He was at odds with management and with coaching in Dallas, and Adrian Dantley was kind of going through the same thing in Detroit. So they just swapped players, and Aguirre ended up an NBA champion here as a result. So it kind of worked out pretty well for him. But when I saw the sell sheet for 2014-2015 Immaculate, I saw these advertised on there, either the sell sheet or the checklist. And I said to myself, hey, this is a card that I definitely have to pick up. So it was one that I was keeping an eye out for. I think I've only seen 4 copies total. And for the longest time, 3 of those copies were on eBay for what I thought was a kind of an absurd price. And the seller wouldn't split them up. And I sent him message after message trying to get him, a message every 6 months or so, trying to get him to split these cards up, and he wouldn't do it. So at some point I just broke down and ended up buying the lot of 3. I'm glad I did, because now I was upset at that guy, and I'm kind of that same guy. I don't want to split these up now that I have the 3 of them. So that's kind of why I see them as one card. There's only 10 copies. The 4th one I saw at one point on ComC, but I didn't grab that one. I probably wish that I would have now, but anyway, this is a big piece of NBA Finals history for me, because you don't see a lot of 80s NBA Finals relics out there. So this is number 23 on the list. Number 22 is this 2016-2017 Panini Immaculate Collection, The Standard, Jumbo 101 patch of Jeff Foster. And believe it or not, I think this is the only Jeff Foster card on the countdown. Now, you've heard me, if you've listened to the show or watched my videos, you've heard me talk about Jeff before, and a lot of people ask me, why do you like Jeff Foster so much, or why do you talk about him all the time? Well, Jeff spent over a dozen years all with the Pacers, and he was basically there for 3 different iterations of the team that I really enjoyed watching, so he's kind of a connecting link. He was drafted this season, they went to the finals. He was the starting center when they were major contenders around 2004 and 2005. And then he was still around when they ramped up for another run in the early 2010s. And one thing I like to do when a new high-end product comes out is study the checklist, so I know which cards I want to keep an eye out for. After all, you can't look for something if you don't know it exists. And I remember looking at the 2016 Immaculate checklist and being stunned that Jeff Foster had relics in there. Keep in mind, he had already been retired for years. It wasn't a player that people were really asking for cards of. I guess they were just getting rid of stuff. But, looking at that checklist, I also realized, hey, wait, there's only one prime version of this, and it's numbered to 1. So there were jersey cards of this numbered to 99, and then this prime relic numbered to 1. So I watched every break of 2016 Immaculate that I could, and I actually saw the card pulled on camera. And while the rest of the room let out a collective sigh, or I think a couple people asked, who's Jeff Foster? I was behind the scenes anxiously tracking the new owner down because I had to have this card. Eventually I did. I reached out to him. I found him on Blowout, and he sold the card to me for a very fair price. So I can't complain about that. Jeff doesn't have a lot of nice cards out there. This was one I was specifically hunting, so eventually I got it. And that's part of why this is card number 22 on my countdown today. Number 21 is this 2014-2015 National Treasures Timeline Materials Prime Relic of George Mikan, numbered 9 out of 10. And I know I kind of already went into this whole get off my lawn spiel when I talked about John Havlicek, but there are a lot of people out there that can't just accept George Mikan for who he was. He was the league's first great big man, the first great star. He came into the league and immediately led the league in scoring for his first 3 seasons. He was such a dominant force that they had to double the size of the lane from 6 feet to 12 feet. They had to implement a goaltending rule because from what I've read, they hadn't even thought of that before. There wasn't a player that could consistently hit the ball when it was in that area. And then he also contributed to the creation of the shot clock because teams were trying to freeze him out and hold the ball the entire game. Now, the point being, George Mikan changed the way the game was played and officiated. Would Naz Reid beat him in a one-on-one today? Absolutely. But the game also has 75 years worth of progress that should be factored into Naz Reid's starting point, and that progress was accelerated because of guys here like George Mikan. And now, as for the card itself, which I know I should spend more time talking about, this is about the cards. There are not a lot of Mikan Prime relics out there, and this is the only jumbo Prime relic that I know of, and I've been hunting a long time. The other Prime relics I've seen are about a fourth of the size of this one, maybe just that little square there. But this one, really stood out to me. Based off the laundry tags that have showed up in other products, it looks like this might have been from a Lakers warm-up jacket. So this piece was either from the cuff or the neck area or the bottom, where they've got kind of that material at. And the non-prime pieces that have shown up in cards kind of look like this, which would be the inside lining of the jacket. I think the outer layer would be a little more shiny. So you can see these are from the same material, but it's two completely different pieces. All of that is to say I'm a patch collector first and foremost. And when I saw this card of Mikan, I had to have it. And that's part of why it's card number 21.